Florida's housing market is crashing heading into 2025, and the 10 cities I'm going to talk about in this video are the ones where home prices are going to drop the most. We could be on the verge of a cataclysmic decline in Florida's housing market unlike anything we've seen before, with hundreds of thousands of people now leaving the state, retirees fleeing, and the Great Florida Migration coming undone. With prices having a high likelihood of dropping in Fort Lauderdale, Broward County at number 10. This is an area in Southeast Florida that's gotten hit with a wave of housing inventory and supply, with inventory skyrocketing by 80% year over year to the highest level in the last decade. Inventory in Broward County is spiking because people are starting to leave the area who moved in during the pandemic. Additionally, lots of people are being forced to sell their homes and condos due to skyrocketing HOA and property insurance costs, with the average homeowner's insurance premium in Florida skyrocketing by 60% since 2019, according to Reuters. And these rising insurance premiums are now driving down home prices across Florida, a situation we're also seeing in our number 9 area in Florida where prices are dropping, Tampa. In Hillsborough County specifically, the active listings are up to 5,400 homes on the market, with the home values declining by 0.3% in the most recent month. However, those average declines understate the price cuts we're now seeing across much of Tampa, with investors now liquidating properties, taking a 20% loss from what they bought it for 2 years ago. And despite these initial declines in Florida, everyone, a lot of people down here still actually refuse to believe that there's a housing downturn playing out. I talked to a lot of the locals down here in St. Petersburg, and they still want to buy homes. They still want to buy investment properties because they don't understand what's actually happening in Florida. That Florida is now on the precipice of a major downturn similar to the one that happened in 2008. Because you can see that was the last time home prices in Florida were this overvalued. The overvaluation rate in Florida was 34% in October 2006, and then prices crashed. Today, the overvaluation rate is 20%, well above the long-term norm, and suggesting that prices need to drop and drop by a lot before an equilibrium returns in the market. And another area where prices should drop in Florida is Jacksonville, Duval County at number 8. You can see prices in Duval County are 26% overvalued compared to their long-run norms and are dropping on a month-over-month basis. The reason they're dropping because the supply of homes on the market has now hit 4,100, the highest level of inventory in Jacksonville going back almost 10 years. Another market where prices are going to drop in Florida is Sarasota at number 7. In Sarasota, inventory is now up to over 4,000 homes, again close to the highest level in a decade, while the days on the market for houses has now spiked to 91 days, also the highest level in a decade. And so understand that this downturn in Florida is happening as we speak. This is not a theoretical exercise anymore. The local housing market data is showing you a big spike in supply, a big spike in days on the market. When you see that happen, it means that there's fewer buyers and more sellers, and that you need to be very, very careful if you're a buyer or investor in Florida right now, because while it might seem attractive to jump on some of these initial price cuts that you're seeing in your market, understand that it's very likely that prices in Florida continue to drop in 2025. Because I want to show you another issue for Florida's housing market right now on this table, and it's declining rents, everyone. The rental rates in Florida are also dropping. You can see apartment rents in Florida have dropped in every major market, as much as 13% in Fort Myers, 8% in Naples, 8% in Northport Sarasota, 8% in Jacksonville, 7% in Port St. Lucie. Florida's rental market is also in a downturn, which is hugely problematic for the for-sale housing market because Florida is dominated by real estate investors. All these investors came into Florida during the peak of the pandemic boom in 2021 and 2022, and they thought that they were going to make a fortune by buying real estate in Florida, and underpinning the assumption of them making a fortune was that rents were going to continue to go up. But that is no longer happening. The rents in Florida are now dropping due to an oversupply of building, an oversupply of apartments and new houses being built by developers, which is good news for you as someone who lives in Florida, but it's bad news for an investor or someone trying to make money off the Florida housing market. And one area of Florida where these investors are really starting to sell is our number 6 city where prices are going to drop in 2025 in Florida, Ocala. Now, as we look at this data on Reventure App, everyone, I want to slow this video down a little bit and kind of walk you through what this data is showing for Ocala and the rest of the cities on this list. We're going to change the data point to for sale inventory. We're looking at county view on Reventure App, and I'm going to zoom in here on Marion County, Ocala. It's to the north in Florida, and you can see the number of homes for sale went from 800 3 years ago to almost 3,000 today. So the homes for sale in Ocala is at the not only at the highest level of the last 7 years, it's actually almost 50% above pre-pandemic norms. So this is excess supply. This is a glut of inventory. This is something like we saw at the beginning stages in the 06-07 crash, this massive surge in supply. And I just want to be really clear with you guys about what that means. If you see supply jump like that in your city, your county, your zip code, it means that there's fewer buyers and more sellers, and that the local housing market is shifting into a buyer's market. At the same time, the days on the market, how long homes are sitting, is up to 68 days in Marion County. So not only is there more supply, that supply is sitting on the market for the longest that it has in 7 years. And so if you combine all these data points together, you actually get a pretty good indication of what's going on in your local housing market and where it's heading into the future, with another city in Florida on the doorstep of price declines being Port St. Lucie at number 5. Down in St. Lucie County, you can see home prices are 41% overvalued. This is actually the most overvalued area in Florida for a larger county. The prices here are even more overvalued than they were at the peak of the last bubble in 06, indicating lots of price downside. And you can actually see the Reventure App price forecast score for Port St. Lucie is a 37 out of 100, indicating downward price pressure due to an abundance of inventory on the market, as well as homes sitting on the market for a long time. And one problem for Port St. Lucie and other cities in Florida is that the cat's out of the bag on Florida being in a downturn. This is no longer a secret. I mean, I was telling you guys about this 1 to 2 years ago. Actually, it was about 2 years ago where I came out with a video calling the start of the Florida housing market downturn. My timing couldn't have been any better, October 2022. That's about when the downturn in Florida started, but it started slow and really started to accelerate in the last 12 months when the national news started to pay much more attention. You can see, for instance, the Wall Street Journal just came out with an article saying that the Great Florida Migration is coming undone. They say that a surplus of housing inventory and dwindling buyer interest are slowing sales, with hurricanes and extreme weather making it worse. Meanwhile, Yahoo Finance just released an article saying why Florida's retirees are fleeing and where they're going instead. At the same time, the moving company Pods, who gives the storage units to people who want to move, they just came out with some data saying that Florida has lost its stronghold as the most popular state for move-ins. And so as this negative narrative continues to build on Florida's housing market, there's simply going to be fewer buyers who want to take the plunge and buy, especially these out-of-state, wealthier buyers from New York, Illinois, and California who really supported the market during the pandemic. These buyers are now taking their time. They're in no rush to purchase a home, and many of them are now reversing their decision to even move to Florida due to the hurricanes. Because the price cuts we're starting to see on hurricane-damaged houses in Florida are unbelievable. Take a look at this house in St. Petersburg. You can see it got flooded and damaged during the hurricane. Well, they have cut the price by about 32% from what they bought it for 2 years ago. So the owner of this house is taking a 32% loss from their April 2022 purchase price, and they're just trying to liquidate. Same thing on this house in St. Petersburg, which already sold. It sold for $212,000 this November after being purchased for $334,000 in 2021. Another 30+% decline. And here's another one, everyone, that sold for a 57% loss after the hurricane. There's mass liquidations occurring in Florida right now on hurricane damaged properties, and this is something that's going to get even worse over the next 3 to 6 months. It's because what I'm seeing right now on the ground here in St. Petersburg is that lots of people are doing repairs on their hurricane damaged homes as well. And those repairs are ongoing, and they will likely be completed by early 2025, January and February. And at that point, there could be an even bigger deluge of new supply and new selling onto the Florida housing market after these hurricane damaged properties get fixed and get flipped. Additionally, one thing to note about these forecasts is they are not guaranteed. They're simply a probabilistic projection of where values are heading in the future based on the current trends in inventory, days on the market, price cuts, and recent appreciation. These forecasts do a much better job than existing price growth in explaining future price growth, but they're still not a 100% guarantee, so just remember that. And before I get into the top 4 cities in Florida where I project prices to drop in 2025, I want to touch upon the property insurance crisis, because it's very important that you guys understand just how bad this situation is on the property insurance in Florida. Because not only have the insurance premiums gone up 60% over the last 5 years and are unaffordable, a lot of people in Florida can't even get insurance on their home. They can't get private insurance. Their private-backed insurer drops out of the state. Additionally, the state-backed insurer, Citizens, is reducing its policy count as we speak, with CBS News reporting a plunge in Citizens property insurance coverage in Florida. Citizens data showed that their policies dropped from 2.7 million down to 1 million in the course of a week, and they're projecting the policy count to drop up to 890,000 by the end of the year. Now, the good news with this is that private insurers are actually starting to take over some of these policies, so some private insurers are coming back. However, a potential downside for Citizens customers is that they can see rate increases if their policies are assumed by private insurers. Trying to spur this depopulation from Citizens, lawmakers approved a change that required Citizens customers to accept offers of coverage from private insurers if the offers are within 20% of the cost of Citizens premiums. So all this to say is that there's still a lot of volatility and turmoil in the property insurance market in Florida, and that a lot of people are struggling to afford the bills to pay their property insurance or to fix their hurricane damaged home, which is one reason why our number 4 city in Florida is already experiencing declining prices and will likely continue to experience declining prices in 2025. Cape Coral, Fort Myers. You can see values are down already 5% year over year in these 2 cities in Lee County, and they will likely continue to drop due to a massive surplus of inventory. There's now 9,600 homes on the market in Lee County, when before the pandemic there was 8,500. So we have a massive spike in inventory. And this is the other thing that amazed me about Florida's housing market, everyone, right now, and that's convincing me that a collapse is underway, is that the buyer demand is literally in the tank. The home sale transactions are at the lowest level in a decade. And I think a lot of people in Florida still don't know that. They might know that there's been a slowdown and the prices are starting to drop, but they don't know just how low the demand is. So I want you to take a look at this graph, everyone. It tracks the home sales in Pinellas County, Florida, which includes St. Petersburg, going back the last 7 years. And what do you see? Is that the trailing 3-month home sales are at the lowest level in almost a decade. In late November, they're at 259 per week in Pinellas County, according to data from Redfin, whereas before the pandemic, they were at 400 a week. So literally they're down 40% from their pre-pandemic norms, while the inventory is skyrocketing out of control, which makes St. Petersburg and Pinellas County our number 3 city in Florida where home prices are set to drop in 2025. You can see that in Pinellas, there's 5,600 homes for sale on the market today, the highest level again in 7 to 8 years. Now, interestingly, you can see the inventory actually dropped after the hurricane. It dropped actually by about 15% after the hurricane, because a lot of houses had to get taken off the market. However, as I said earlier, those houses are going to be back on the market in 3 to 4 months in early 2025, at which point I suspect the inventory is going to climb even more, and that houses like this in St. Petersburg, where the price has already been cut by 20%, are going to have to be cut by even more. Now, our number 2 area of Florida where prices are set to drop in 2025 is a little different from some of these other cities. It's actually not on the coast. It's actually not impacted by hurricanes at all, this city where I think prices are going to drop in Florida next year. It's an area, though, where the builders went absolutely crazy. And the builders are a key part of Florida's housing market, because they went nuts during the pandemic. They pulled over 200,000 permits in 2022, and those permits are still finding their way onto the market in a reduced demand environment, which is causing home values to now drop in Lakeland and Polk County. You can see values in Polk County are down by 0.2% month over month, but I suspect those value drops will accelerate into the future due to the biggest wall of inventory I have seen in the U.S. housing market of any large county. You can see there's now 4,800 homes on the market for sale in Lakeland, Polk County. Prior to the pandemic, it was only 3,000. So the inventory is up by almost 60% from pre-pandemic norms, which is now driving the prices down in an area that isn't even impacted by hurricanes, indicating to you guys out there that this is a statewide phenomenon that isn't just related to a single factor. Rather, there's a structural slowdown in the number of people moving to Florida, mixed with a big surge in builders finishing homes and a big surge in investors selling. And before we get into our number one city in Florida where I think prices are going to drop in 2025, I want to explain to you all how you can access the data I showed you in this video for yourself so you can make a more educated decision as a Florida home buyer or investor in 2025. The data in this video comes from Reventure App, a website I developed that allows home buyers and investors to access all of the relevant data on the housing market at their fingertips. You can see here we looked at all the different counties in Florida for this video, but you can even drill down further into different zip codes and see what the home price forecasts are, as well as how over or undervalued prices are, and how many sellers are cutting the price. Accessing that data is super simple. All you have to do is go to www.reventure.app and type in your city or zip code in Florida into the search bar and immediately start analyzing the housing trends in your area. But before you do that, let's get into the number one city in Florida where I think prices will drop in 2025. This is a place that has gotten absolutely slammed by housing supply and inventory. The people, they're not moving there as much. The builders are still developing a huge pipeline. And as a result, home values have huge downside. South of Orlando in Osceola County, this is the county that covers Disney. You can see we now have 3,800 homes for sale in Osceola County. Prior to the pandemic, there was only 2,200, indicating a downward price forecast on Reventure App at 32 out of 100. Go to www.reventure.app right now to see that price forecast for your city, county, and zip code. It's available under the popular data section by clicking home price forecast. This is a premium data point. You'll need to sign up for a premium monthly pass, but it's well worth it so you can understand the home value trends in Florida and all across America.